Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman. With me is not Jeff Doss. It is Jackson Rudolph of the Jackson Rudolph podcast and Chris Walker of CTE. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for the shout out, Alex. And for anybody tuning in from the Black Belt Magazine page, this is also episode 71 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I am your today co-host, Jackson Rudolph. And today we've teamed up with the Martial Arts Center Network. So regardless of where you're watching it, which platform you're watching from, we got a little bit of Inside Scoop with Alex. We got a little bit of CTE, the Chris and Travis, and now Carlos Tierney experience with Chris Walker. And then we've got myself with the Jackson Rudolph podcast. So we want to do a big crossover today, really previewing the Battle of Atlanta because there's some pretty interesting stuff that's going to be coming up. But I'll give Chris a chance for some opening comments as well.
I just wanted to say what's up, everybody. Thanks, Alex, for having me. Thanks, Jackson, for being a part of this with us. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited for the battle, so it should be a good show.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about is kind of where I noticed that Andrew Capelon's already in the chat. So I want to talk a bit about where you guys' last episode of Inside Scoop left off with you guys kind of talking about the unique nighttime finals format that's going to be going down Saturday night for the adult forms, weapons, and fighting grands at Battle of Atlanta. And here's what I'll say to start it off is, so for those of you that don't know, there is a separate extra grand prize of $500 bracket that's going down for the women's forms and weapons combined, the men's forms and weapons combined, the women's fighting, and the men's fighting. And in the last episode of Inside Scoop, they talked a little bit about how the open weight is going to wind up fighting the 30-plus winner. This is for the men's. This is different for the women. But on the men's side, at least, let's try to keep it as streamlined as we can. On the men's side, the open weight winner is going to fight the 30-plus winner, and the heavyweight grands winner is going to fight the lightweight grands winner. I think the graph coming up. And then the winner of those two finals are going to face one another for this $500 extra prize, right? And you guys were mentioning in the previous episode why would you take the open weight and you would put that in with or potentially if the open weight gets through the 30-plus winner, right, they would be fighting against, lightweight and heavyweight grands winners, which is a totally separate division. But then if we switch it over, and this is the first thing that I want to talk about, if we switch it over to men's forms and weapons, for example, and we will get into the women's here shortly, if we look at the men's forms and weapons, which I'm going to pull this up on my phone simultaneously, we look at the men's forms and weapons, we have the CMX forms winner, the CMX weapons winner, the traditional weapons winner, the traditional forms winner, and we have the 30-plus representative. So we have 5 forms that could be vastly different from one another that are all going to be judged up against one another for this grand prize. First, I just want to get initial reactions to that, and then I want to get into a little bit of predictions, analysis. And what are we going to see that turn into?
So that's, to me, that's kind of old school. That's how
that's exactly what I thought.
When I was competing. Because
it sounds like the 90s, right, Chris?
90s and 2000s. I mean, I was competing against Rudy Raynon or Steve Terada, Mark Hananazada. If I got through my division in traditional Japanese and Okinawa forms, I had to compete against everybody for that overall title. We did that,
exactly
way before it was a select thing. So, I mean, it's cool to see that everybody's going back. I like how everybody gets their own individual grand. And then everybody gets together and has the overall. I mean, it works out. It does.
I like it for the forms because then you do have, all right, you got a true winner, right? Yep. And which is what it was. It was like women's forms champion, men's forms champion, boys, girls. Then there was it, right? And there was few tournaments where you would have like the Rolex, but that was a different division. I shouldn't say that. But you would have like the Diamond or the Warrior Cup, or you would have different things like that where it's like, all right, that's what this one means. And this is kind of like that. So this makes sense. But it's also kind of like I remember like the 90s when it was like you would just win your division. If you won your division, boom, some tournaments you just be in the finals. It would just be like 9 people and like in the finals for that form, and you'd have to sit through them all. It wasn't until like later on where they were like, you know what, maybe we should sift through these out. Maybe we shouldn't put 9 people
We got
On
to have
stage.
some runoffs here. We got to cut this down. We got to whittle some of this, some of this fat off.
Exactly. Which it's kind of, this kind of looks like this is a runoff, right? Which we all know the runoffs sometimes are the coolest parts of the tournament, right?
That's exactly what I was going to get to, Alex, because I'm a fan of doing it this old school way too. You know, I've been around. I remember back doing compete nationals when they did the gold medallion instead of the silver medallion. And as a junior, you would have to compete 17 and under, traditional forms, traditional weapons, CMX, everybody against one another for one junior gold medallion. You know, so I love that style of competition. But my number one concern with it is losing some of those divisions that we get in the runoffs, because what makes, like, for years and years and years, people have said like the 14 to 17 CMX, I guess for years and years, but for the last 10 years, the 14 to 17 CMX forms and CMX weapons runoffs are two of the most exciting things that happen at a tournament, because that is kids that are coming into their prime. They're all going for broke. They're super talented, and it makes for fireworks in those runoff divisions where everybody crowds around the ring and you get great divisions, right? But
I guess
it is a bunch of the same style of forms going up against one another, which is what creates that intensity level. So here's my thing. Because what this format does is, under my understanding, the regular adult overalls are all going to be run off during the day. And this is the only adult grands division, as far as forms and weapons go, that will be seen on stage. And so, you know, if we were just throwing some names out here, right? Let's say, going down the list, I'm not saying these are my predictions, but going down the list, right? Let's say that we wound up with Mason Stowell winning CMX forms and Joey Castro winning traditional forms, and Terry Creamer comes out of the seniors, and then we get a Jake Presley traditional bow form, and we get a Danny Edkin extreme chucks form, right? Those are all excellent routines that are going to be great to watch up against each other. But at the same time, they're all so different. It's hard to have a comparison, especially as a spectator. If you're coming to the Battle of Atlanta to watch sport karate for the first time, maybe that's not necessarily going to add up. And you don't get to see what it took those competitors to get there. For Danny to get into that spot as the weapons overall grand representative, there was probably a great division that went down between his Chuck's form and Connor Chastain's comma form and Jake's CMX bow form, or Rashad's double bow, or his commas, or what have you. And we lose that by using this format. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for an extra division, the extra prize money. I think it's great that the Battle of Atlanta is doing that, but I think it's unfortunate that we lose some of those really competitive overall grands in the process.
You know what? I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. Now I don't know if I love it so much. What do you think, Chris?
I'm trying to calculate in my head, because that'll give me 416, because they don't really do a lot of the 30 plus overalls in the nighttime, so they would just kind of bring them up for the final. But that would be like 16 more forms just for men's.
Which, by the way, I'm not saying they need to take all those overalls.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So by using the same logic, I'm not sure if I could pick which one of those divisions I would have the four representative for those overalls to do it. It's a really hard play to kind of balance that. So I think they're giving it a whirl with this, do it all during the daytime, early afternoon, whatever, 4 or 5 o'clock by the time we get all done or whatever. And then bringing the winner of the winners over to the nighttime. I think it's their way of balancing it, I guess, right now, instead of overloading on 16 to 20 forms. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, you know, I totally understand that you don't want to overload the stage with a whole bunch of different forms. And Andrew brings up a good point. Andrew in the comments is saying you get the best in all caps competitors on stage, which I agree with, but it comes down to what matchups are more exciting and more interesting, right? Like, is it more interesting to watch 3 great CMX weapons forms against each other, or is it more exciting to watch 1 great CMX weapons form against a traditional bow form, another traditional form, and then a CMX form? The other thing that comes in is the judging. Throughout history, when there's been these overall best of the best grands, there's been a natural judging bias towards the weapon side, because weapons have the risk of dropping, right? And if you drop, you get disqualified. You could fall in an open form and not get disqualified. You're still going to get a score, right?
Yeah.
And so there's always been a slight judging bias when it is forms versus weapons in favor of the weapon, because they have to manipulate a weapon. If they drop, they're out automatically. Granted, if you fall, you're pretty much out automatically, but it's not the same punishment. You know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into it. I'm not saying I don't like the way that Battle of Atlanta is doing it, because I do like the fact that it's different. I do like the fact that it's an attempt to get some of these competitors some extra prize money. And I think that the most difficult part of this issue will always be, at some point, whether it's the seniors, whether it's traditional competitors, whether it's the women, somebody has always gotten the short end of the stick, no matter what format you try, because exactly what you were saying, Chris, you can't have 16 to 20 different adult forms grands performances that are going on in a night show. It'll take way too long. And when you narrow that down, somebody is going to be getting the short end of the stick.
So with that, I think the best format, kind of as we're verbalizing this, would be just do a real runoff and let them go. So if you end up with 3 CMX guys who are in the top 5, then they're the ones who should be in the top 5. If you don't end up with any of them who are better than the rest of them, then maybe none of them should be there. You see what I'm saying? But what's Andrew saying? There's also the CMX versus traditional bias. Well, he's got a good point with that one. I mean, there's outliers. There's guys like, all right, like there was a period where John Su just was favored by everybody, right? It didn't matter what tournament it was, who the competitor was. There was plenty of times where I was like, I think Steve Trotta should have won that one, right? Or I think Marcel Jones should have won that one, but it wasn't. It was John for like 4 years. It was everything, right? So I think as we're kind of talking about this, I kind of think that would be the thing that would probably be the best scenario. The other thing is this is in Jackson, you just said something. You're like, I give it to the battle. They're trying something new. That's what we know the battle does. Whatever we know, the battle is going to do something new. It's going to be last minute, and they're going to tempt you into doing it, and you're going to go, should I do this? Should I do this? And the one thing here's what you should know. And this might, all right, whatever. It's going to sound bad. I don't care. All right. The battle is going to come out with this thing. They're going to put this prize money on it. They're going to put this thing on there. It's not for you. Sorry, really, really good competitor. It's not for you. It's a scam. You're not going to win it. All right. This is for Danny Etkin. This is for Connor Chastain. This is not for you. All right. Whoever else is thinking like, man, I won my division once before. It's a scam. It's not for you. All right. It's kind of like their mega super Viking warrior challenge. That was not for you. It doesn't matter how good you were. That was never designed for you to win that. Promise you. I had this conversation what was it called? What was that?
Extreme Warrior Challenge.
Extreme Warrior Challenge. Yeah, so it shows you how great of a division that was. All right. So I was having this conversation with Hamid Ferruzzi, and that was kind of like a super fight. And he was very good. He performed very well in super fights. And I'm like, homie, you know the rule. That's not for you. It doesn't matter how good you fight. That thing's not for you. And he goes, but I could win this and I could win that. And I'm like, you know who this is for? This is not for you. This is for Trevor Nash. This is for Raymond Daniels. This is just a thing to get more people to want to do it. In the end, that's who's winning it. They're giving it to them. That's just what's going to happen. All right. It doesn't matter how well you do, what the rules end up to be. The rules are just give it to them. That's what it was. And as we go down the lines, as we look over the history, the battle will do something like that. But they'll even do stuff that's not even competition. They had Chris. Remember the set match that Joey Greenhall had?
Oh yeah,
when he got the knockout. I watched that one.
Awesomely entertaining.
Manny fought Rafael, who fights in the UFC.
That was a great. Do that. That's entertaining. Just do that. Do stuff like that. I'll watch that one all the time.
The Atomics Challenge.
The what challenge?
Atomics.
The Atomics Challenge. I was never a part of the Atomics Challenge.
I know you weren't. You didn't watch it. You weren't a kid. You do karate as a kid. Were you around then?
Yeah, I started in '92.
Okay.
But I don't think I paid attention that closely to the battle. I watched stuff because I had access.
Yeah, because you're not from the South. I keep forgetting you're a Minnesota guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I had access to tapes, and I watched tapes of a lot of stuff. I was actually pretty fortunate to be able to have access to those tapes. But that's the other thing is it's like, all right, Chris, we were just chatting about this.
Yes.
This is the 2005 Battle of Atlanta. This was a real thing. This actually happened. Jackson, keep this. Tournament's like over. Almost over. The finals are about to start. And Larry Carnahan gets on a microphone and goes, he's promised this is how it went down. And he says, anybody who wants to do a super fight and be in the finals, come meet me at the microphone. And a bunch of guys just kind of stood around and was like, did we just hear what we heard?
Huh?
If anybody wants to be in the finals and take part in a super fight, come meet me at the microphone. And 16 guys went up there, and Chris and I were in it, right?
Yep.
And we're like, so what's this cost? Nothing.
Nothing. Don't worry about it. You can just fight.
Don't worry about it. We're gonna give away $2,500. So there was a bunch of really good guys and Jason Borelli. Jason Borelli won it. But it was like, if you look at it and go, oh well, of course it wasn't as easy as that because of the way the final match went, but kind of. So they were here's what I'll give it to them. They did a very good job kind of mixing it up. Like you didn't know who was going to win like your first round. It wasn't chalk, but it was pretty good and it was entertaining. But Chris, remember that's when the Ring Star came out for the first time.
Oh, was the Ring Star.
That was the launch. That actual finals.
I think that's probably what it was.
That's what it was. Oh, they were the ones putting up the money. That's what it was, Chris.
They put up the money in 2009 when I did the PKA super fights, the heavyweight thing for them at the bout. Did you wear
the Ring Star that night?
I don't think so. I'll have to check the video. That's I said that's a clip from the opening of the CTE, me and Hamid fighting. And I don't remember what I had on. I'll have to look next time.
I 100%.
I wore them twice, and then I never wore Ring Stars again. But
I wanted to like those things, but no, I did not wear them, and that was the worst. That was the worst kind. They have leveled up, but these things were literal bricks on your feet at that point. And yeah, it was bad. So now, I had to have this dialogue to even figure that out and remember that. So that's what we know. Long story longer. That's what we know about what the battle does. They just do different weird things.
Right. Which, by the way, I think that you mentioned set matches, right? And I know that that bracket that you did at Battle that year wasn't necessarily set matches, right? But at the end of the day, I think that set matches are some of the most exciting things that happen, right? There's been a number of epic U.S. Open forms weapons fights over the course of the years because they are inviting specific competitors to stage to make for the best divisions. They even did it, I think it was 2015, New England Open. Joe Greenhall did it. Joe Greenhall watched 14 to 17 weapons grands, decided that I don't even remember who won the weapons grands, but decided that like, hey, this division was great. I'm going to give I think we got paid. I think it was like $500. He was like, I'm going to give $500 to whoever wins. Y'all 6-7 people go up on stage. And he actually had us all line up on stage, and we had to stand on stage while each competitor was going.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then we got scored at the end. It was a great division. It was a great division because you could see live everybody's reactions right then and there. One competitor came up at a time. We all did our forms. I was fortunate to wind up winning it. But those are some of the most exciting things that happen in our sport is when you say, hey, I want you, and you all in a division against each other. And I know that not every tournament can do that. But ultimately, if we want more events to be televised, if we want more and better pay-per-views like we get with Virtual Fight Tour, sponsor of Inside Scoop, I'll go ahead and make the little shout out for you guys. But anyway, like those are the types of things that helps make our sport more exciting. And so that's a good segue because there are going to be some set matches coming up Friday night when they do Friday night fights at Battle of Atlanta. I'm going to go ahead. I'll read down the card and then whatever you guys want to jump on, just go ahead and shout it out. But first thing that's going down is there's a junior girls team fight. I believe that's 3 fighters, 3 matches, normal team fighting setup. That's going to be a team coached by Charles Garrett against a team coached by Tony Hamsani. And then after that, we get to the pro point fights, which is going to be starts off with Angel Diaz and Jermon Wiggins. Then goes to Robbie Lavoie and John Mercado. And then you've got the other junior team fight, which I believe is all boys. I don't know who they are because they haven't announced that yet. But it's John Curatolo coaching a team and Kevin Walker coaching a team. And then the main event is the middleweight title unification bout with Ryan George and Christian Rivas, who won the last 2 pro points. Any of those stand out that you guys want to talk about, fire away, and we'll talk about them.
I mean, a lot of them do. I'm really excited about the Angel and Jermon fight. Mm-hmm. So, listen, I'm guilty of this as well. Everybody forgets about Jermon, all right? Forgets how good Jermon is. Jermon is very good. Jermon is a very good kicker. I actually want to see Angel kick with Jermon, like as he's kicking. I'm really interested to see how that goes down, all right? I want to see how those legs tie up, what the angles are, how that really goes down. Because
I'm laughing at Chris's face.
I know.
But I know. I understand what you're saying, Alex. As a kicking perspective, I want to see how the entanglements work and who makes the adjustment and which way it goes. But I don't. Why? I want to see.
It's exciting and it's entertaining.
I want to see who changes it up, who makes the adjustment, who cuts off the line and throws the hook, who shifts offside and shifts off and kicks. That's more what I want to see. But it's going to be in a pro point setup.
So, right. I guess here's the only thing I don't want to see.
And it's 2 rounds, right? Because so this is going to be
right.
It should be. Yeah.
So I don't feel we're going to have the leg fireworks that you're going to think. There might be a few exchanges where we're going to see that, but in this setup that they do, I just really don't see that. It's unless they've increased the ring size and made for the ability for more movement. But I'm not sure.
Well, wait,
is the ring size small? I mean, it's smaller than a square because it's a circle. So you cut off the corners.
You're already cutting off the corners.
But on top of that, though,
right.
On top of that, Angel, who's got the shorter legs and has less experience than this, right? He's not going to want to try to kick right with Jermon because then, especially with pro point setup, where a lot of the times if one fighter appears to dominate the clash, they might get some points out of that just for dominating the clash, right? Kind of like how we do in point sparring, how if one's the aggressor, then they typically get the call, right? Which isn't how it should be, but that's how it's officiated a lot of times, right? I feel like in pro point, because it's a little bit more of a clash sparring type feel, a lot of the times if someone dominates a clash, they're going to get the points going their way. And so I think that it would behoove Angel to try to use the halo more, use his movement and try to get around the leg of Jermon, using his own kicks, using his hands, whatever weapon he decides to use. But kicking with him, so listen, I don't think we're going to see.
You're making very good mathematical points. Very, very good. But when we talk about, like, when you say, like, you know, Jermon's got longer reach, he's got longer legs, there are examples where that means nothing. All right. We kind of mentioned him at one point. Jason Borelli, all right, is 5'8". Yeah, like 5'8", something like that. Okay, listen, I'm 5'11", and I have they're kind of, and I can extend. I should always mathematically outreach Jason. No, never, ever. All right, has that happened?
Never.
I hit. This was a real thing. Like I timed Jason because Jason has a tendency where when he slides, opens up big, like your stereotypical right side fighter would do when they kick. So I knew that was gonna come. I'm like, I'm Spin City. I thought I was like Robbie Lavoie, but I wasn't. All right. So I dropped my head. I'm extended. I mean, I could do splits, and I'm a full out. Right before my foot hits him, he kicks me in the head. And I'm like, wait a minute now. You shouldn't be able to do that. All right. And we watched Pedro Xavier. I don't even think he's 5'8". Right. It don't matter if you have extra reach. Pedro finds ways, right? Well, Chris, you and Travis talked a lot about Enrique. I think that's one of the things I like about Enrique Latona is how he ain't that tall. I think he's 5'9", but it just feels like he's right there. Like it never really it like his reach never really seems to be that much of an issue. So I don't know. I'm excited. I want to see. It's what I want to see. I want to see
Them
the kids together. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm eating popcorn. I'm sitting back, and I want to see the cool stuff happen. It's like when you're watching a full contact fight, and you're like, I don't know who these guys are at all. All you want to see is cool stuff happen. But yeah, I mean, no, I know them. I want to see cool stuff happen. So that's that.
Fair enough.
And speaking of cool stuff happening, I think we're pretty much guaranteed that in the next fight. We talk about reach not mattering. I've seen Robbie Lavoie kick Roman Brundle in the head before in a Quebec team fight with a spin kick. Exactly. Right, you know what I'm saying? And so Robbie's that next fight. Admittedly, I don't know much about John Mercado. I don't know if I've ever watched one of his fights.
Bullet.
Do you guys have any background on
the super lightweight from Team Legend.
Mm-hmm. I know who he is. I just haven't seen him fight.
Yeah. He's a quick little fighter. Obviously, I mean, I
Robbie.
But no, that's an interesting matchup. We'll see how John does in the pro point setup. And again, 2 rounds. That always plays a factor.
That was a good segue. That was nice. So I'm gonna see. Robbie is interesting. So Robbie can beat everybody in a tournament, and sometimes there'll be just this one super lightweight that gives him trouble that day for some reason. Like I remember, like Landon Reynolds beat him one time, and I remember thinking, like, I mean, you're good, but that really happened? Oh, okay, all right, that was interesting, all right. And so sometimes Robbie can have that happen. I mean, it's not like I'm going to pick against the guy. That's certainly not going to happen. All right, the guy's like transcended like martial arts. Like what he has, and this is Chris. Tell me what you think. I actually think Robbie has had the fastest blitz for years. I don't think his has been like as dominant because he doesn't have the reach and the power. I actually think speed for speed, his might be the fastest.
His body punch blitz.
Yeah, I actually think it might be the fastest.
That's one of them.
It's definitely one of them. I agree. But Alex, aren't you the one who also said Elijah Hill's fast world? And would Elijah beat Robbie? Obviously, length, he'd beat him, head to head. But if they started at the same time, just because of the length. But I mean, just pound for pound speed.
I don't think anymore. I don't think Robbie's as fast as him anymore. But I think there was a time where it was like, no, Robbie's he's straight up the fastest.
Yeah.
So I'm picking him. That's my pick. And that's going to be exciting. I want to see it.
That's gonna be a really good fight. That one you're gonna see them move around. What do they call the halo? The ring.
Yeah, the halo. So, and the next one, it's hard to make any kind of prediction because we don't know who the fighters are. We know who the coaches are, but we don't know who's going to fight. Right. So we know John Curatolo and Kevin Walker are coaching, but we don't know who they're going to have head to head. We can speculate, I guess, but I got no idea who the actual fighters are going to be. It's supposed to be Florida and Georgia.
Yes.
If they tie, they should make John and Kevin fight for the first point. All right, next point wins. John and Kevin.
That's cool.
That would be cool.
That's something
that would be fun.
Yeah, I'm down for that. And then main event. Now this one I've got in all caps written. I came with notes, guys, but I got all caps close. Ryan George and Christian Rivas because I think that's what this fight will be. I think it'll be close the entire time. They both won before. That's why they're going for the title unification bout. You guys' thoughts? Because this is one I would not place any money on it because I got no idea who's going to win.
Yeah, and they've already fought once before in the first pro point.
Yes, who won? I guess Ryan did because he went on to fight Bailey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a close fight.
Mm-hmm.
That was a close fight. Yeah, both fighters are active. Christian's a little more active as of late because I think there's probably more events in Florida than Louisiana. But Ryan's always primed to go. Obviously, we saw that in all of his last matchups. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Jackson. It's probably going to be a really close fight. It's going to come down to who makes the adjustments in the second round or if there's some sort of advantage in the first. You know what I mean? Because I can see, either one of them going off in the first round, and then if there's no adjustments made, there doesn't have to be any work.
Right. And that was one thing that I think is going to play big is energy conservation, because Ryan has a fighting style that it's easy for Ryan to spend a whole bunch of energy early if he chooses to. And could that be the difference in the fight? I feel like Christian's fighting style primes him to conserve energy a bit better than what Ryan's fighting style is. And that could be the difference in the fight, unless in the first round, like you said, Chris, Ryan just goes off and gets,
I was trying to allude to what you're saying, but yeah, 100%. I agree with you. That's funny.
So I agree with that too. And that was my thought process. Jackson, remember when you were like, you know what, if point fighters were NBA players, you know who Ryan George is? Ryan George is Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett is all intensity all the time. That's Ryan George, because it's exactly like what you're saying. Ryan George, he's just going to go out there and he might be an energy dump, or he might be up 24 points, right? Mm-hmm. That could be what it could be, right? And don't you just want your competitors to just fight like that, to be like, it don't matter what it is. You're just going out there like you're going to kill somebody. Like, yeah, man. Yeah.
That's why I feel like so many others love Ryan, is because that's what he does. He goes out there, like when I was there in person commentating for the pro point card that he won, he was instant fan favorite. You know what I mean? And it was not there were a lot of people in that building that had never watched point fighting or sport karate before. They were just coming to, support the promoters because they knew him and everything else. And people fell in love with Ryan because he was throwing anything and everything, and he was exciting to watch. And I think that that's what point fighting needs, and I think that I talked with Bailey Murphy about this recently, and it's like, we need more point fighters that embrace the performance, the showmanship side of point fighting, right, like we saw a young Ray. Well, not just young Ray. Ray did it his entire career, right? Exactly. But we need more point fighters that are willing to take on that persona and be, the big characters that are going to attract more viewers. Because for anybody that's ever listened to my own show before, that's something I talk about all the time, is how does sport karate attract fans, people that will follow the sport and continue to pay money and provide sponsorship and this, that, and the other to watch these athletes. And these athletes have to create characters around themselves. Ryan does that with the way that he fights. Bailey does that not only with the way that he fights, but he also does it with Instagram the other day. Check it out, where he hit a guy with a tornado kick, highlight reel kick, and then he walked up to the front of the stage and yelled about it, which is the exact type of thing that gets people into it, that creates fans for the sport. So I could go on and on about how important I think that is for not just point fighters, but forms of weapons competitors as well. We can't all be Tim Duncan, to go back to the NBA players analogy, right?
Whose favorite player is Tim Duncan? Nobody.
Best answer, Jackson.
Give that guy some broccoli and have a nice day. Who wants Tim? Get out of here. I'll take one championship KG over 5 Tim Duncan any day.
Oh Lord.
I mean, I'm a Celtics fan, so I'll take that 2008 chip all day, every day.
So listen, yeah.
There's something on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Hold on now, if we're good, because we did the whole card and we didn't talk about the opening matchup. The female juniors. Because you said that's coached by Mr. Garrett, right?
That's another one. I don't know who the fighters are, but I know the coaches.
Man,
Carlos Garrett.
It's going to be Team Legend, and then Mr. Garrett. He's going to pull out people from their area, and that's going to be a good little fight. Tony's got some junior girls on his team, and I mean, obviously with Callie, and I got an idea of who it could be, but they'll have a pretty good squad as well.
How come they're not announcing those fighters? Did they just not have them set up yet? Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think that with the John and Kevin thing, it might partially play into the strategy between the coaches. You know what I mean? Right. Because I don't know if the coaches even know which fighters are on the other team.
That's what I was wondering. Like, are they not like?
They're
Why
probably
not have,
hey, I
you
need
know,
3
fighters to
girls
kill?
this age, and this age, or 3 boys this age, or 4, or however many boys you got at these ages. Find somebody and
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, sometimes that's hard to do.
right. So
Yeah.
you're leaving it open because something happens.
Exactly.
Kid
Right.
juniors don't have control of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They train and they work out and they show up if they can.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Yeah.
No,
So
I remember
that
what
brings
I
me
was going to say. Yeah, because we were talking about how much it's like, oh yeah, that's Ryan George was a fan favorite. Does anybody not like him? Does he have any haters?
Not that I know. Hey, I'm a fan. So
I mean,
maybe, but I wouldn't think so.
everybody's got to have some haters. Who doesn't like him? There's people I don't like.
hey, you don't have to. There's professional athletes who nobody hates.
Yeah, but they're not any good.
That's not necessarily true. And now you're
Of
going
course
to
it is. Nobody.
I get somebody else to tip my tongue.
That's exactly it. Like
how about this? Have you ever met
hates.
anybody that hates Derek Jeter? That's not a Red Sox fan. Red Sox fans don't count because they just hate all Yankees. But does anybody that's not a Red Sox fan hate Derek Jeter?
I'm sure there's plenty of people that hate him. How about anybody that he played in the World Series? I'm pretty sure they hate him. You know what I mean? So if you're not good, why would anybody hate you? You know what I'm saying?
But that's the thing. Ryan George is good, and we don't know of anybody that hates him. So that's like the perfect storm.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, did he like find some like magic fairy dust? So like, no, you will like me. I don't know.
Oh,
I think he's just a good dude. Here's one thing. Here's one thing about Ryan is that I feel like sometimes point fighters and forms and weapons guys, sometimes sport karate competitors can lose fans because of the way that they handle a loss, right? Something doesn't go their way, a bad call, a drop, whatever. And then and this is forms weapons, this is fighting, this is everything. Somebody throws a little hissy fit, shows a character flaw, and then all of a sudden, then you lose fans based off of that, right? Then people are always going to remember that one time that so-and-so slammed his helmet down or whatever, right? And Ryan is someone who's extremely level-headed. He's just a good dude. So win, lose, draw, whatever. I've never seen Ryan have any type of like overly emotional reaction to a win or a loss. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what keeps him as a fan favorite because he hasn't had one of those like blemish temper tantrums, if you will, that a lot of times we see when a fighter gets some people that don't like him or her or a forms of weapons competitor.
I don't even mind those though. You know what I mean? Like people who
not everybody does.
Not everybody does, but there's a large majority of people who will because you did.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you would have the haters. I guess that's true.
That's where that builds from.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about divisions. We didn't even know it was going to be fun. We have an idea, but we don't know. That's kind of the story going into a lot of the divisions at Battle of Atlanta in particular. First big NASCAR tournament back. We don't necessarily know who's going to be active in the adult division in forms, weapons, or fighting. We don't know in fighting. We don't know what juniors are going to have moved up to the adults or not yet because they always keep that a secret, right? And so that's one of the things I want to get into next is let's just go and let's make this kind of the last phase of the show here is division by division. Who are the names that we're looking out for? And we haven't talked enough about the women. So let's start with that. Let's go with
what is the
adult women forms and weapons.
What is the women's grand setup like? Because you said it was different than the open weight men's, 30 men's, light and heavyweight men. Like, what is that?
They're
I have a question about, are they doing like the AKAs? Are they doing what happens if the open weight winner is also the heavyweight winner? They're picking number 2 from one or the other division.
I want to put that on the shelf for a second because I've got a weird scenario that I want to talk about when we get to men's fighting. So let's put that on the shelf. If we look at, let's start with women's forms and weapons. The women's forms and weapons setup is they do a 30-plus runoff of the 30-plus women's forms winner and the 30-plus women's weapons winner. Right. They're going to do that runoff, and then they will go into the division for this extra grand.
Right.
Extra grand.
One person for that, right?
$2,000. Go ahead, Alex.
There's only one person?
Yes.
So we take the 30-plus forms, 30-plus weapons.
Run them off.
Left?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Right. And then, so that winner, so the 30-plus women's weapons and forms representative will compete against the NASCA 18-plus women's forms overall grand champion because that's not split like the men's is. Men's is split into traditional CMX. Women's is not, which doesn't make any sense to me. And then the NASCA 18 plus women's weapons. So it's 18 plus women's weapons, 18 plus women's forms, and then 30 plus winner of the runoff, whether it be weapons or forms.
The other 4. Oh, okay.
I mean,
yeah, it's just 3 for that one. For the women's $500 bonus grand, it's just those 3.
Okay. Was Andrew saying down there, women's fighting doesn't include 30 plus?
he's right.
We're gonna get to that next. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
He's right.
Go ahead, Jack.
So let's stay focused on forms and weapons for just a minute, right?
Forms and weapons
So
first.
for forms and
There's 3
weapons,
for the women's, for 3 for
Right.
women's.
All right. How's that different than the men's again, Jackson?
There's 5 for the men's overalls.
5 for the men's because the men's overalls are split. There's a
Between
separate
CMX
overall
and
for the traditional and CMX and both forms and weapons for the men.
Oh,
And
so they're
that's what
robbing
is
the
not
women
their-
again.
What's that?
So they're robbing the women again. They're just being like, "Oh, your grand championship now it doesn't exist."
Well,
Don't
no,
tell-
Well, they have a grand. They just
have a
haven't
grand.
separated it between traditional and CMX. They have to compete against each other.
I think we don't see the numbers to
See,
have.
but like this now. This doesn't make any sense. Now there's not even a financial difference.
But this is a divisional difference. I think this is more of they don't have. Do they do Japanese, Korean, and soft style for the women's as well, or is it just traditional?
Yeah,
Form?
they have all the same divisions, and then Alex, there is a financial difference because if we look at just weapons, for example, men's CMX weapons pays $500 right now.
Okay.
Men's traditional weapons overall grand pays $500 right now.
Okay.
The women's weapons, which is traditional and CMX in one division,
Right.
that also pays $500. So men have $1,000 total weapons grand money, and women have $500 total weapons.
So, like in theory, we're gonna tell you because you do weapons and we all know you. Jackson could do the traditional weapons and the CMX weapons, and in theory, you could come out with 1,000.
Correct. Yes,
But your female counterpart cannot.
that is correct. Under the current division and financial breakdown.
What is those in charge of these decisions? What are their answers? What are their replies to these things when we bring this to them? Not we, because I never really do. But when this is brought to them,
you know what I mean?
when this is brought to them, what are their responses?
Big topic. I don't.
Jackson,
Well, I think that-
have these conversations.
Let me.
What are their responses?
I'm gonna give context because I don't think it's a vast conspiracy, right? I don't think that the promoters are out to say we're good and we're gonna give the men all the money, right? Where this comes from is several years ago when the decision was made to split the men's traditional and CMX grands for both forms and weapons, which I believe was initially done in just the men's division as a trial run, in part because there were so many competitors on the men's side relative to the women's side that they felt the need to do the split and award a separate grant, right? And so they did that, and then they realized, oh, well, now there's a totally different grand, and so they just gave the grand prize money. So pre-COVID, you could do, because it was like this pre-COVID. So with pre-COVID prize money, theoretically, it happened a couple times. If I won the CMX weapons grand and I won the traditional weapons grand, I made $2,000 that weekend because they were giving $1,000 for both the traditional and the CMX.
And that's what I'm talking about. When I say like this stuff's not for you, this extra money's not for you. It is for the Jackson Rudolphs. That's what this is for. It's for like this extra prize is for like 5 people. They have the chance to get this. The rest of the people in the tournament, just get your popcorn. Sit down.
So here was my point to the promoters' credit, right? My point to the promoters' credit was they made the decision to split traditional and CMX forms and weapons grant on the men's side in an attempt to make those divisions more fair so that you didn't have the CMX traditional bias always impacting who won the overall grant, right? Because as a competitor, I feel that a grand championship division should never come down to, oh, did you get a traditional panel or, oh, you got a CMX panel? right? It should come down to who was the best competitor, regardless of if their performance was CMX or traditional. But oftentimes, as a competitor, I can look at a panel that sits down and tells you they're going to lean more traditional tonight or they're going to lean more CMX tonight, just because you get individuals that prefer one or the other when they're of comparable skill level, right? And so I think that what the powers that be tried to do is make those divisions more fair. And when they did that, they realized after the fact, wait, there has to be prize money for this. And so then they just gave it the same thing and then realized after the fact, oh, wait, this means that now the women have less prize money, which is a problem. And then they didn't have the funds to increase the women's prize money because the attendance in the women's division wasn't the same as the men's. I'm not justifying it. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that's how I think that it came to be. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah. No, I don't.
My thing is, if they were going to split, when they split the men, why did they not think to split the women then too? Like, if you're going to split one, why would you not split
Jackson? And to give some slight understanding to this, you're seeing the same three women. Anyway.
Yep.
You're always seeing the same two or three for the last pre-COVID. For a little while, you always saw the same three women. Half the time, it was the same two.
Yeah, there was many years where we just saw
when one of the two of them didn't go to the tournament. So why am I going to create two separate grands for the same person or the same two people to have? Now on the side, you're having a very talented Korean and Japanese stylist, all CMX styles represented, were ultra talented. So now you're having 6 representatives from all those individual divisions, because the same person didn't always win all the divisions. There's a gaggle of talent. So I think you're seeing the 3 women that always were there, 2 or 3, versus the 6 men that are there. Let's go ahead and split those 6 men up to 3, and still have the same 3.
Right.
Now, knowing what we know, like you said, in hindsight, there has to be some changes. Otherwise, now with everything out, you're kind of looking
So what would you do, Chris? Would you split the women, or would you go back to combining the men?
At this point, post-COVID, I would have split them. I would have split them, and I would have given them the opportunity and saw who showed up. Then I would have made an adjustment. I would have to, at benefit of the doubt, coming out of the pandemic, I would have given them the same, everything the exact same. Now, with that said, if I'm only seeing the same 3, I can then justify.
I forgot about that.
Whittling it down. Look. I'm giving 2 separate grands. So-and-so or so-and-so show up, and they win both of them every single time.
Let's go down the list. Let's actually say who they were.
Coming out now, you don't see that. There's a lot of young ladies stepping into the adult division who have a freaking ton of talent in their respective divisions. And all around.
Right. So I want to transition this to kind of, because I think that we're about to see an era in which we do get some new names, right? Because Mackenzie and Sammy, regardless of how long either of them plan to continue competing, we know that both of them are closer to their end than they are to their beginning, of course, right? Yeah. And we have a very, very dominant junior female that is moving up into the adult division in Haley Glass, right? And so let's say that Mackenzie and Sammy aren't at Battle of Atlanta, which I don't think that they will be, right? Then I think that puts Haley Glass in a position to all of a sudden start winning the women's CMX overall grand as soon as she steps in. And there are others as well, right? If Noelle Jellison is there, Haley's teammate, Noelle has a chance to win that. And there's other contenders that have been successful in Pro Mac, everything else. Sarah Campbell from AKA is somebody that's got a really high level of difficulty bow form. If she's on, she could make some noise. And there's names that I'm forgetting, of course, as well, right? Yeah. So I think that we're about to see an opportunity, kind of like we saw when the Caitlin and Becca and Audrey era moved on, and then Sammy and Mackenzie became adults and became the new dominant females. I think we're about to see one of those shifts again when Sammy and Kenzie decide to hang it up. You know what I mean?
Yep. And when they're not there, and that's kind of that's exactly what I was alluding to. But
yeah. So now you're right. So we might see a preview. And really, the only reason why we know that this is going to happen is because, like Jackson, when you and Sammy were on, I just asked her. I was like, "Listen, is anybody going to beat you, or are you just going to decide you're done?" And she offered up that if she wins a Warrior Cup, she's done the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could have, when I asked her that question, I mean, I thought it was totally possible. She would say, give it up. No, I'm going to go for another 20 years. Who knows? People do that. So I didn't know she was going to say she was going to hang him up after that. Otherwise, I'd have answered that question 10 minutes into the show.
Right. Yeah, that was crazy when she said that. But I mean, it's the expectation for a lot of CMX competitors in the modern era, because trickers can only trick at that high of a level for so long before the next wave of trickers is already going to have overtaken them. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like once you get into your mid to late 20s, the knees start to go downhill. And then, once your tricking is compromised, like in an extreme forms division right now, in the adult division, if you can't do a cork, your chances of winning go down significantly, right? And that's for women's and men's, right? Like, you need to be able to do certain skills in the CMX Forms Grand to be able to give yourself a chance. You know what I mean? And regardless of what skills you need to have, everybody thinks that they still need a flash kick and a skip front kick, pop front kick, but that's another story for another day.
We'll go on. We'll have another show where we'll talk about what needs to stay, what needs to go. And I actually think there should be like a 1-year ban on round-off flash kicks from corner to corner. Not on the move itself, but from corner to corner, it should be a 1-year ban. And let's just see what happens with that. Why not? You want to be interesting and creative? Let's just do that. A 1-year ban on that move.
And then, if you're going to get really interesting, let's go back to NBL 3-kick rule.
Now, see, I didn't mind that rule.
I loved that rule.
I thought there was a lot of creativity around that. And there were some people that were like, I don't care. I'm just going to go hook kick, ground kick, side kick, and then just do the rest of their form.
I know people who did that. They stood in the corner through 1, 2, 3, bowed, walked in, bowed, and they did their intro and then did their.
That's my position on this, is that competitors are always going to find the loophole. I'm guilty of it. I did the same thing when NASCA, they still do. They have the extreme weapons rule, one inversion, and then you've qualified for extreme weapons. I did a cartwheel before I ever did my form, literally a cartwheel, and then ran a bow form and won the division, won a world championship, a NASCA world championship for extreme weapons, doing a cartwheel and then running a bow form, right? So competitors, when you put in a rule like that, competitors are always going to find some way around it. And the really good competitors will find a way to be successful despite that rule not being used as it was intended, right? So on the flip side, I would say it's not something where you need to write a new rule. You don't need to get rid of all these rules. But judges need to watch it. And if a judge sees a round-off flash kick from corner to corner, then that competitor's creativity score in their head goes down a notch. You know what I mean? If two competitors both have great stances, they're both fast, they're both powerful, they both perform well, and it literally just comes to competitor did a flash to the corner and competitor B did a full twist to the corner, which at least isn't a flash kick, chances are the competitor did the full twist, in my mind at least, is going to win because they did something that isn't the standard. They did something beyond just what the loophole is.
You're already thinking loopholes. Oh, I can't do the flash kick, so I'll do a full twist. You're already thinking loopholes.
I'm not saying that's what people should do, right? But my point is that when a competitor takes the initiative to do something different from what's been done before, then that is something that should be rewarded, assuming that competitor does it well, right? Because we've seen a lot of competitors try to do something different and then it turns out to be a hot mess, and so it doesn't work. And then people are like, oh, well, we got to do the same old thing to win. No. You don't have to do the same old thing to win. Do something new, but also do something new that looks good too. Don't do something new that just is new and doesn't have the technique behind it or doesn't have the cleanliness on the catch or on the landing or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I agree. Because I think that's a slippery slope that competitors get into a lot. And I see it more and more in the juniors where competitors will try to do new things just because they're different. And maybe they executed exactly the way they intended it to, but it just didn't look right. It just didn't look like a form move, right? So this might be something that surprises a lot of people. I have two different categories of weapons tricks that go into my head when I'm choreographing a routine, right? Because I come up with, if I'm building a new routine for a season or whatever, I might come up with 8 to 10 new moves that I've never done in competition before that are going to be considered for that form. And when I come up with those 8 to 10 new moves, I have 2 categories that they go into. That is either a trick battle move or it is a form move, right? And trick battle moves, they might be cool, they might be difficult. I know that people would like them, but I could never do it in a form because either the judges wouldn't get it, the judges wouldn't understand the level of difficulty it required to do it, or it simply doesn't look as good in a karate uniform as it does in a t-shirt. And so if I'm ever going to use it, it's going to be in a trick battle. I'm not going to use that in a form. And then there's a small percentage of those tricks that I think of that I'm like, okay, now this, I could do this and hit a front stance. I could do this and go into a strike after it. I could do this, and not only would my peers respect it because they know the difficulty, but the difficulty would be obvious to the judges and the spectators as well. And that's the difference between a trick battle move and a form move. And there's a lot of competitors that just come up with something new and throw it in there because they just want to do something different, and they don't get the response that they want because they didn't think about how that move actually looks in a routine.
You're welcome, insiders. Jackson's dropping knowledge. He basically just gave you a mini seminar right there. If you're listening to this and you didn't watch it, go back, watch him do this live, because that was pretty good. All right, well, you know what I was thinking of when you were saying that, though? I started thinking of all the people that say, the heck with that rule. I'm just going to do the trick battle moves anyway.
Yeah.
I like those. But I think you're right on, though, Jackson. You're right on. I do think so. You're right on, like, because when you have certain moves that don't have the same lines, they don't have the great like position. You can't actually see, like, your body's not facing that way. You can't really get like the grasp for where that bow is at, for what your body's doing. If they can't get it, then it's not going to score well. You know, but the only people that are going to get it are those standing around the ring going, "Oh!" Those are the people that are going to get a move like that, right?
Right. And like, you can't always, like, back if this was 2005,
you got to bring that hype back, though.
All right, I was about to say, like, if this was 2000, there was some type of culture change in sport karate. Because 2005, 2007, if you did a move that was crazy, your competitors would jump up and down and go crazy at the fact that you did something crazy.
Yeah.
Today, everybody's like too serious, right? And it's weird because it goes both ways, right? So this is something that I notice. Competitors will go out there and do a form, and they might do crazy stuff like shuriken cutters, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And then all of their peers that are competing against them in the division will just sit there and say nothing, which I understand that. You're competing. You don't want to hype up somebody to potentially get a higher score than you, right? So I understand competitors not losing their minds over other competitors, because why would you? But then at the same time, as soon as the division is judged and over, I also feel like sometimes I see a little bit too much of like buddy, like, oh, you know, good job and this and that. Not just good sportsmanship, but like genuinely being like thrilled that like your friend beat you. And I'm like, I don't get that either. I'm like, you should be thrilled you lost somebody. Like, be respectful, hey, congratulations and all this. But sometimes I think even that goes over the top. So it's kind of a weird generation shift right now where it's like competitors, they don't cheer for one another, so you don't get that hype. But then after the division's over, they'll like show all the love in the world. And I don't, it almost feels two-faced, but I know a lot of these kids, so I know that that's not how they
You know it is.
It's a weird dynamic.
It is two-faced. It's fake. And I think the reason why you're like, I don't get it, is because you're like, you're too much. Okay, you're like the fightingest forms competitor that there is, right? You really are, right? So, and that's why you can like see through it and you're like, this is fake. You're blowing smoke up my butt, right? So, no. So you get that part and you can tell, but man, it is, they're just straight up fake sometimes. I don't understand it. The one thing, what drives me nuts even more than afterwards is like the pre-competition conversations when it's like, everybody's nervous. Everybody's intense. They're trying to focus on that one area that needs to be perfect, that they've been drilling for forever, right? Whether it's a trick or a combo or a new thing that nobody's seen yet. And then the conversations that people have around there are like just overly fake, just pointless conversation pieces. It's just like water cooler filler conversations for like a half an hour. Yeah. That's the worst. So bad.
And here's one thing. Am I
crazy?
Rashad's in the comments talking about a webinar. I'm going to go into another brief webinar here real quick, because this is something a lot of people don't understand. Divisions can be won and lost in the 30 to 45 minutes right before you start competing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so for anybody, if you come to a tournament that I'm competing at and you watch me for the hour before I compete, because I'm always there an hour early, never half an hour, I'm hour early every single time, right? And I talk to no one, right? Like somebody practically has to like hit me on the back with their weapon to get me to turn around and be like, yeah, what's up? You know what I mean? So I don't talk to anybody for that hour. But what I do is I don't just use that time to warm up. I'm also using that time to prepare myself, for tricks that I might need, but probably won't need, as well as making sure that all of my competitors see those tricks too, right? Because all of a sudden, if I go out and for an hour, I'm throwing all of my hardest stuff and hitting it every single time that I throw it, that puts added pressure on my competitors who are watching me warm up and warming up alongside me. They're going to start thinking like, oh, well, I got to have all my big stuff ready. And so they're focused on their big stuff instead of focusing on the stuff that they trained for 3-4 months, whatever it was in preparation for that event, right? And so you don't have to say anything to anybody. The way that you prepare can put yourself in a better mental state for your competition than your competitors are, right? And there's so many people who don't look at it that way. You know, it's no different than if a fighter is warming up and going through their fighting drills and showing how fast their blitz is. That's going to be in the back of that next fighter's head when you step in the ring with them, right? If they saw you warming up how fast that blitz is, if they saw you warming up how you can work your leg, right? It's the same thing in forms and weapons. If in warm-ups I show you what I can do, then that's going to put extra pressure on you to perform because you know what's coming at the end of that division when the seeds come. You see what I'm saying?
You Jedi mind trick them.
I wouldn't go that far. But, I mean, that is an essential part of the whole strategy of forms and weapons competition.
You ain't never do that before? You ain't never go stand next to your competitor who you're getting ready to fight and just go do some crazy shit stuff? Sorry.
I mean, no. I never.
Really? Oh, man. I go over there and start flipping around and doing all kinds of dive bomb with a backflip or a Webster into a dive bomb or something. Man, I love knowing who I'm getting ready to fight and going over there. Unless it's somebody I've fought 25 times and then it's like, nah, whatever. We know each other. But, yeah, going to other countries and just going over and doing stuff like that and everybody looking at you like, what? And then you just go out there and do like a basic reverse punch or a side kick. And they're expecting everything else. You've never.
No, actually, now I think I have in fighting, but I think I've never. Yeah, I have. Yes, I have.
Gem.
But I think what Jackson was saying was a whole other level. He's like, yeah, there's these moves I'm probably never going to throw in my form, but I'm going to do them anyway. That way, everybody sees me doing them, so they basically crap their pants. What? What?
I mean, that's no different than what Chris is saying, though. Warming up stuff that you're not going to throw in the fight, and then you throw a basic reverse punch, and that's what you score with, right? It's no different.
I never went there.
That's
and all these years of martial arts in my head never went there.
Always mind games. Everything is a competition. Everything is a chess move. The way you move, who you talk to, if you talk to people.
I had too much to focus on with my forms. Like I was,
and
I remember that happened to me. I remember that happened.
So what I was going to say is that's the way. Right. Okay, I'll let you go. Tell your story, then I'll tell my story. Go ahead.
Well, no, all right. So here's one. All right, this is like when I actually felt like, all right, I might have a shot. There was a few years where I felt like I could have a shot. And it was like Anthony Atkins, David Douglas, me, like Daniel Sterling, and of them, I was the lower one. And there was a couple of times where I beat Daniel and David, and I'm like, Anthony was the number one seed, and clearly I placed the highest. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, beat you guys, get this. Well, what Anthony had done, Anthony did this. He was a showman. He was a performer. What he went and did is he went and talked. He didn't even pay attention. He didn't pay attention to my form. I'm doing my form. You're not even looking. You don't even care, right? He's talking to everybody around the ring. And when he told me, he goes, yo, when I say what, I want you to yell what as loud as you can. I lost. Before he even started his form, he went out there, yelled what, and like 30 people go, what? It was like, I couldn't even. So every move he'd do a double leg where his feet basically touch the ceiling and he'd land and go, what? You just stand there. And I'm like, you're just performing. Like, I freaking lost this thing. You got to be kidding me. By the end of the form, I'm going, what? I couldn't believe it. It's like, oh, yeah. So I've had stuff like that happen to me, but
right.
no,
And
I
that
was
was
never
just
that smart.
what I was going to say is, and it's different competitors do it different ways, right? So that's the way that I always did it because I've always been a quieter competitor. I'm not a very outspoken guy. You know what I mean? That's just how I go about my business, right? But other competitors do it different ways, right? Like I saw Rashad in the comments. The way that Rashad does it, right, is if you talk to Rashad before division, as I've done many, many times, he's a normal, fun-loving. He's funny. Like he's just a good, chill dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then what he's very good at, and his part of the mind games is he flips a switch, right? So if you had never met Rashad before, you never seen Rashad, and you just talked to him before the division, you wouldn't be concerned. You'd be like, oh, yeah, he's a cool guy, whatever. And then he'll do his first ki, and he'll turn into like a demon or whatever, right? And then all of a sudden you realize like this dude, he didn't come to play. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just another element of it, right? For some people, it's acting like just normal, calm, cool, collected guy and then flipping a switch, right? So a lot of I won't say any names, but there's other competitors who did it verbally, right? There's other competitors who would try to say little things like, "Oh, you sure that's for me?" Or, you know what I'm saying? Exactly, right? And so it's what's that?
He's trying to tell you to say names. That's Alex promoting.
And I'm not going there, but those are, and the competitors who are the best of the best, we see through each other's stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like at some point, it's like if it's me and the number 2 guy and the number 3 guy and the number 4 guy, we're not going to be playing many mind games with each other because we all kind of know how it goes outside of if it is a major, if it is a Warrior Cup, a US Open, a Diamonds, then not knowing who's going to throw what and warming up stuff intentionally that you're not going to throw. Everybody does that. Like that's just part of it when you're at that level, right? And the chess match is figuring out who's going to throw what in what situations, right?
I'm telling you, stop telling his secrets.
But anyway, all love. But anyway, so last thing that I wanted to get to, because I know we're starting to run a little bit long here, but this is something really interesting that came up in y'all's previous episode of Inside Scoop, and that's talking about the men's fighting final bracket. I know we've jumped all over these brackets today, but I wanted to get to this because I find this fascinating, right? So there's another part of this that you guys haven't thought about yet, or maybe you have, but you just didn't say it on air, right? So 30 plus men's fighting winner, open weight, heavyweight, lightweight, right? So you've talked about the situation where, well, if the heavyweight winner is the open weight winner or vice versa, the lightweight is the open weight winner, then they take the runner up, right? Which is that fair? Is that not? You could debate that all day long, right? But here's the other thing, right? So I'm just pulling names out of a hat. Let's say that Avery Plowden wins heavyweight, and let's say that Bailey Murphy wins lightweight. Right. What happens if they're 1 and 2 in the open weight? Because they very well could be 1 and 2 in the open weight.
Yep.
So then who do you put in that spot? Do you just give a bye or? Well, so here's what I've heard. I've heard that 2 of the things that you could try is you could do a runoff between the 3rd and 4th place fighter, or it wouldn't be 3rd and 4th, but the 2 losers of the open weight semis, you could run them off, or you could take the 2nd place heavyweight and the 2nd place lightweight, and you could have them run off for that last spot. What would you do in that situation?
I would be pissed if I were a spectator or either in that scenario, Bailey or Avery. Because you can be like, let me see if I get this straight. You didn't win your division. You didn't win the open weight. Now, all of a sudden, it's like not double elimination, like quadruple elimination. Like, what is this? Like, you didn't win anything. Now you're the overall champion. Like, that would happen.
What happens is they're not going to give somebody a bye. In a 4-man bracket, they're not going to give somebody a bye. So what is honestly the fairest thing to do? So you have to do something. I understand what you're saying, Alex. You're getting, a loser to get to the finals who can be the overall winner.
Right.
Third, you got 2nd place. At this scenario, if you go with the 2nd scenario that Jackson was saying, you take the runner-up of the heavyweight and the runner-up of the lightweight and have the 2 of them fight off, and the winner of that gets that last spot. You technically have winners of the divisions. You just have people who aren't at this case scenario, Bailey or Avery. So who did Bailey beat in the lightweights and who did Avery beat in the heavyweights, and let those 2 battle it out and give them a spot. Drew, don't get me started on 40 and over competitors. I didn't think we were going there today, and if we did, it's probably going to be a longer part of the story.
Yeah,
But
we will get there, Drew. Just not today.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that is a big take-home message from my perspective, because I've had, whether it's about the black belt rankings or everything that's been going on as far as tournaments go in between. I just want senior competitors to know you guys' voices are heard, right? And I hope that I hope that promoters and everything are listening to the seniors and trying to make more accommodations for them, because they are a very important part of what we do. And so I'm somebody that is a big advocate for more senior inclusion in everything. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And even with that, Jackson, did you see that one? What if the third place in the open weight winner is the 30+ winner?
Say it could be a Willie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Jason.
So now with Willie, let's say it's Willie. Willie is the 30+ winner, and he lost to Bailey. All right. And so Bailey, and because it's all in just this scenario. So Bailey's the lightweight winner, Avery's the heavyweight winner, and Bailey and Avery were, first place and second place in open weight. All right. And Willie in this scenario is the third place winner, but he's also the 30+ winner. Now what?
You just give it to the other third place guy because you're going to have those two third place guys fight it off anyway. So you just automatically give it to the other guy because he's already in.
And what if that guy wins everything?
See, that's where I think it gets really interesting.
Betting odds that doesn't happen.
Right.
I mean, yes, betting odds favor that doesn't happen. But at the end of the day, right? Like if that crazy scenario plays out and that person gets in, at that point, it's a 4-man bracket. Like, yes, I understand that like you had to win to get there and the other person lost and lucked their way into the situation, but you still got to win the fight. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of who that person is that gets that spot, it's still on you as the semifinalist if you lose that fight to whoever it is, regardless of if you beat them once already or not. That's like if I lost musical weapons to somebody, right? And then they won bladed, a division that I'm not even in, right? And then we went on stage and I lost to them on stage. I can't be like, oh, but wait, I beat you in musical. Like, this isn't fair, right? But no, I got to a new division and then they beat me. And that's on me for not being able to win again. You see what I'm saying?
But this is also why I said what I said at the beginning of the show. For all those people who are thinking, like, I got third place and I got in. No, it doesn't matter. It was never for you. You just sprinkle this little fairy dust that makes you think like this. You could have this. It's not for you. They're going to pull that rug right out from underneath you anyway. Don't worry about it.
Listen, that's not true. We almost had an upset at AKAs in 2020.
With Oscar Guzman. I know that.
So,
and that's the other thing.
Oh,
but here's the other thing, though, Chris. This will
which one? But not the conversation is which way do you think it would go? Not if it's fair. Not it's already happening. Do you want it to be the 18+ third and third, or should it be the runner-ups? I like the runner-ups on the 18-29, but
I guess if it was going to happen, I guess I would like the runner-up.
It could be 230 and overs because the open weight is 18+ open weight, and they shouldn't say 18+ open weight and heavyweight sparring. They should say 18-29, or I guess 18-39 technically.
They're not letting 40+ in the open weight.
No. Open weight is still open weight, 18+. Don't get that twisted. I'm saying NASCA heavyweight sparring and NASCA lightweight sparring isn't technically 18+. It's only 18-39 if a 30-year-old drops down to the 18-29-year-old division.
Wait a minute. Oh yeah, that's right. They don't let the 40s in there.
Nope.
That's so
or 50s or 60s.
So stupid.
I've mentioned that on the show a couple weeks ago, last week, about protested Gerald out because he was 40 or over 40, and he won the 18-29 heavyweight division. They protested him out. I think it was DC. I don't remember what year.
Dude, that's the stupidest.
But I think I do think they should probably do the runner-ups for the heavyweight and lightweight.
I would agree with you.
And have that. I think the winner of that may have a better shot, or it just may be better for the show. I'll probably be judging all of this, so that would, if they get asked my opinion, that would probably be what I suggest.
Right. What's interesting is then I feel like we talk about how unlikely it would be for that person and that 4 seed who maybe isn't one of the Grands winners to win. At the same time, though, right? If you look at from one fight to the next, if you get like an Avery and Bailey, for example, right? And we're just going with that. There's other fighters that could win that, of course, right? But then Avery and Bailey are going to have an extremely tough fight against one another in their semifinal. Whereas let's say, I don't know, if Cam competes and he's not injured, right? Let's say that Cam was that other spot, right? And let's say that Cam just blows through whoever the senior was. Not saying that Cam would, but just let's say that happened, right? All of a sudden, that fighter now has an advantage because they blew through a relatively easy fight for them. And now whoever won between the imaginary Avery and Bailey fight just got out of the hard one, a much more difficult fight. And so that would favor the person on the left side of the bracket. And that's not necessarily going to happen. That's just, like, for example, if Yoscar's in that spot, Yoscar could wear somebody out. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But I'm just, throwing out more hypotheticals because it's fun and it's what we do on a podcast. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, what are your predictions? What do you think it's going to be?
Oh, he said predictions. Oh, it all depends on who shows up, my guy. Do you know who a list of people who's going to be there?
I hate that we never know until it's like.
But that's the difference. That's what Jackson was talking about. But the difference when you have set fights, we know Ryan's going to be there. We know Christian's going to be there. We know Robbie's going to be there. We know John's going to be there. You know what I mean? We know Angel and Jermond are going to be there.
Do you know? How about this, Chris? Do you know if Jack is going to be there?
Huh?
Do you know if Jack Felton is going to be there?
I don't.
And he's coming off an injury too, right? He had something going on.
Yeah, a little something.
A little something, right? Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, there's several marquee fighters, like Cam, for example. Cam, like,
that's
I don't.
A good point too.
Me personally, and people that know me know this. I love both Avery and Cam, not just as fighters, but as people. And literally, when Cam is healthy, because I know he had the back thing that happened at North Georgia Open, right? If Cam's 100% healthy and Avery's 100% healthy, I have no idea. Like, there is no amount of money you could give me that would make me pick one because I can't. Like, because of my personal relationships with both of them and how much I love both of those dudes, but also because from a point fighting perspective, I have no idea who would win that fight.
It's a great fight. Agreed. 100%.
Yeah.
Win 2 of these divisions, they have a choice of what slot they fight in. Yes, I would imagine if it's 18 plus lighter heavyweight and open weight, I believe they get to pick which one they want.
Ooh, that's interesting too.
The way,
I didn't realize that.
I think that's the way
they do it at AKAs at least. So if they're going off the same model, you get to pick which one you'd rather choose because you get to see who's the fighter.
Yeah, because I mean, you're the one who won both. You're the one who should have the control and the power.
Yeah, that's an earned advantage in my eyes. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. That's
like if you like old school. If when we threw everybody's name in a hat for forms and weapons, and you won 2 divisions, you got 2 draws.
You got 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you got 2 pulls, and you get to pick whichever the better of the 2 is.
Exactly.
Right.
Same thing. Same scenario.
Yeah. I think that's fair. They've earned that. You won 2.
Right.
All right.
I agree with that. I guess last thing, just to make sure that it gets represented, because I know we said that we were going to mention it, and then I don't remember that we did specifically. For the women's, because I think I saw some comments about it. For the women's fighting, the seniors are not represented in that Grands Challenge at the end. For that, it is just the 18-plus women's sparring Grands winner against the women's open weight winner, which looks like they have KickFit is sponsoring $1,000 for the women's open weight. So it's just open weight versus the Grands winner, and that is that bonus round.
Is it at least 18 plus open weight?
It says 18 plus.
Yeah. Open weights. I think open weights are open for everybody and always have been.
Okay, good.
There's like super fights were always you could be any age and do super fights. So I think that's always been something that's been all age inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
what happens if it's the same girl?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say
then we get the runner up, and so we just basically see the same match we may have seen twice already for the open weight. You know what I mean? Like, because if
potentially.
All right, so let's say like the NASCA women's 18 plus sparring champion. Let's say that's Morgan. All right, let's say the 18 plus open weight. Let's say that's
Also Morgan. So who came in
I
second?
know, but let's just say she didn't win it. All right.
Okay.
Let's say it's like Kayla Mejia. All right.
Okay.
All right. But you could have, let's say Regina Spivey. All right. She can't even participate.
She only in the open weight. If she wins open weight,
As if she would have to win her way there through the open weight. So she's at a disadvantage, but it's not
Right.
that she doesn't have a chance to be in it at all. You know what I mean?
right?
But both of those two they not only have an opportunity to be in it, they have an opportunity to be in it 2 different times.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're de-incentivizing. See, this is the problem, is they're de-incentivizing competition. They're de-incentivizing participation. So they're saying, if you can participate, but we're not going to allow you to be a part of this big thing, well, then why do I want to do that? You're de-incentivizing me to want to do that.
Well, I mean, I think for the women's division, they only have one because they have 4 divisions, so you only have 1 overall grand. I mean, you have 2 overall grands, so then you can't have 3 You can't have a battle of 3, so you have to include somebody.
Right.
Women
And in
don't
that
have
situation, it would be the seniors,
right now.
right?
What? Yeah.
In that situation, it would be the seniors.
Right. I don't understand why it's not a 30 plus grands, 30, 40, and 50, and let those 3 battle it out and let that happen. Because I mean,
that would make sense.
But whatever. That's again.
I think at the end of the day, though, on the promoter side, let's see what Andrew's saying real quick. That's so wrong.
Yeah, he's saying it should be included.
That doesn't make sense. I agree. The bottom line is, and I think that everybody on this episode right now can agree, the goal is to get equality amongst all of this, right?
Yes.
It's just a logistical nightmare when you include prize money and everything else that goes into it. Not saying that because it's a logistical nightmare, it can't be solved, because it should be and needs to be solved. It's just a matter of doing stuff like this to get people to see it and understand that, like, hey, there is a need for this to be fixed, right? And that I can't
actually
what it was. Oh, so I think that part of the reason that we don't see promoters going for example, like 18 plus, 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus, and trying to make that the semifinal and final bracket is that if you do it that way, then you guarantee that in the finals for that big extra prize, you don't have any chance to get 2 of the top 18 to 29 guys, which is the show that most promoters are trying to create. And I think that the fact that that is the show they're trying to create is what naturally creates that disadvantage. It's not that the promoters are trying to give seniors the short end of the stick. It's that I feel like in these night shows, the organizers are trying to get it to where let's give people an Avery Cam, an Avery Bailey, a Cam Bailey, a Bailey Enrique, insert this world-class fighter versus this world-class fighter, right? And so because of that, they're unintentionally not representing the seniors as well as they could be. And that is just another fold of that logistical nightmare that, again, at the end of the day, whether it's men, women, whether it's seniors in 18 to 29, whether it's forms, weapons, whether it's open weight point or open weight and weight class, whatever it is, there just needs to be more consistent equality amongst this.
Yep.
Well, no, Jackson, you hit the nail on the head, but and then went on to another nail. But it was exactly it. They want Bailey and Avery. They want to create that set match, but they don't want to get criticized for that. That's what they want.
They want to make set matches, but they got to keep it the way we've always done it.
Exactly. So they try
we know what we want, but we got to kind of get it there.
By the way, Andrew's exactly right. That was a fantastic fight.
Yes,
that was a great fight.
And I think what you were talking about earlier, Alex, about the battle, just throwing stuff together. I think you can see that from them because they will go and they will watch the 30 plus light versus heavyweight and see who they are. Be like, man, that might be a good fight, and they'll pull them up. I don't know if that'll happen, but you see things like that from the battle.
Well, and part of me likes that, like kind of what you were talking about, Jackson, how Joe Greenhow went. You guys are the bomb. All right. I want you guys up. You guys are on stage. I'm giving you guys $500. Whoever wins this, because you guys are that good. You would certainly get the best that of any of those guys would have ever performed. You're going to get the best. Well, see, we get the same kind of thing here in this. So if it was broadcasted like this, like we're going to pick 4 guys throughout the tournament. We're going to be watching every single fight, and the best 4 fighters, the most exciting 4 fighters. You may not win, but the most exciting 4 fighters that we see, we're going to handpick you to be a part of this thing. That could be interesting. I don't know how that would go, right?
Well,
but that could be interesting.
Here's my take-home message on set matches is that as a competitor, and for anybody watching this, if you are truly a competitor, you know this. You want more than anything else. If a promoter or the powers that be come to you and say, we want to see you versus this person, this person, and this person. We want to see who comes out on top. Every competitor will want to be a part of that. And I know that because it's happened at US Open for years and years and years. And a lot of people don't realize that. Our overall grands for the prize money at US Open happens during the day for forms and weapons. I don't know how it works for fighting, but for forms and weapons, that the money, the points, all the things that we normally care about at a tournament are done when we go up on stage Saturday night. Saturday night is 100% because the promoter said, we want to see you and you and you and you, and let's see who wins on TV. And we love that as competitors.
Yep.
Would I love to get paid for that? Sure, absolutely. I'd love to get a check if I win that, right? But at the end of the day, the reason that for years and years and years, competitors continue to go on US Open stage and go for it, even if they've already won their money, is because I want that challenge of we want to see you, you, and you. Let's see who wins on stage. And I think that you will get the best divisions possible in night shows if we see more set matches, right? Still include some of the overall grands, but let's just try this. Like, what if the NASCA board got together and said, hey, every tournament, you get to pick 1 forms showdown and 2 set point fighting matches, and pick your set matches and put that at the end of your show and see if it keeps people around to stay in the building for the hour and a half or the 2-hour show, right? Because I think that a lot of competitors will be willing to do that. I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah.
100%. I agree.
I think that would be exciting.
Anyway, so I think that with that, we should probably bring this show to an end. Number 1 takeaway, or I guess number 1 and number 2 takeaway. Number 1 is that there needs to be more consistency and more equality across every competitor represented in these divisions, because everybody, I think it was Sammy that I heard say this. Everybody is training at the same level. Everybody is training to be the best. So reward every competitor that wants to be the best at what it is that they do. And then number 2 takeaway is that regardless of who shows up, Battle of Atlanta is going to be extremely exciting. NASCA is back. The premier sport karate circuit in America is back with the best competitors. And I can't wait to see what happens there. Closing thoughts from you guys?
Man, battle's going to be fun. I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. They got the Thursday, the Pro Max stuff, the championships. They got Friday, the battle fights, Friday night fights, Saturday, man, Sunday. It's going to be good.
There's stuff happening on Sunday?
Yeah, buddy.
What happens on Sunday?
There's a seminar.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the plug. By the way, anybody interested, there is a Competitive Edge seminar. Myself, Reed Presley, Cole Presley. We're going to be teaching a Competitive Edge camp on Sunday. I believe it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Yeah, head on over to mattaction.com and get registered for the Competitive Edge camp with your Battle of Atlanta divisions. Thank you very much for the segue, Chris. I appreciate that, and hope that we see everybody at the Competitive Edge camp. With that, I know that everybody's going to get
my takeaway. I'm going to tell you what my takeaway from this whole thing is. My takeaway is that Jackson Jedi mind tricks people.
He never thought to do that. That's the best part.
I never thought about that.
That's my biggest takeaway. That Alex was like, you psych people out. You do stuff to make the other people think different stuff. Get it? That's a daggone miracle.
I literally never put that together. Never did. Never.
Oh, darn.
All right. With that, we got to wrap this show up. Even though it's fantastically entertaining.
This has been great.
If you're not watching this, if you're listening to this, go back watch this because it's even more entertaining. If you're just shut your Netflix off, just go back and watch this. This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman. Not Jeff Doss is here. We got Jackson. We got Chris. See you guys.
And episode 71 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast, Black Belt Magazine audience. I will see you guys next time.